Maybe you know. Science meets the questions you never thought to ask. In April 2016, a 30-year-old man named Blake Ross, the guy who co-founded Firefox, was reading an obituary for the neurologist Oliver Sacks. Halfway down, Sacks described picturing his mother's face. Blake stopped. He read it again. He turned to his husband. "Wait," he said. "When people say they can see something in their mind, they actually see it." For 3 decades, Blake had not known. There was nothing wrong with him. There was just nothing there. Try something. Close your eyes. Picture a red apple. Most of you just saw one. Maybe it's matte. Maybe it has a leaf. Maybe a small bruise on the left side. For roughly 96% of human beings, that image just happened automatically against the dark of your closed eyelids. It feels obvious. It feels like seeing. In 1880, a British scientist named Francis Galton, yes, the same Galton who would later invent fingerprint analysis, sent out a questionnaire. He asked grown men to picture their breakfast table from that morning. The vividness, the color, the clarity. He expected uniform answers. Instead, his data fell into 2 camps. Some people described their toast in photographic detail. Others reported nothing. A blank. They knew there was a table. They could not see it. Galton was confused. So confused that he assumed the men who reported blankness were either lying, joking, or fundamentally misunderstanding the question. He filed the data away. For the next 135 years, science essentially forgot, until one patient walked into a clinic in Edinburgh complaining about something nobody had a name for. The year is 2005. A 65-year-old man, researchers call him Patient MX to protect his identity, has just undergone a routine cardiac procedure at a hospital in Scotland. He wakes up. Everything works. He can see the room. He can read. He can recognize his wife's face when she walks in. But that night, lying in the dark, he tries to picture her face. And he can't. He tries to picture his house. Nothing. His childhood. Blank. For 65 years, MX had lived inside a head full of pictures. After a single afternoon on an operating table, the pictures were simply gone. He could still describe his wife in words. He knew she had blue eyes. He just couldn't see them anymore. His case landed on the desk of a neurologist named Adam Zaman at the University of Exeter. Zaman was fascinated. He ran MX through scans, memory tests, recognition tests. Everything else was intact. Only the inner cinema had gone dark. Then Zaman wrote up the case. And something strange happened. Letters started arriving from people who said, "I've been like this my whole life. I just thought everyone was." To understand what's happening, you have to know that seeing and imagining use almost the same hardware. When light hits your eye, signals travel backwards through your brain to a strip of tissue at the very back of your skull called the visual cortex. That's where the picture gets assembled. The shocking part is what happens when you close your eyes and imagine. The same strip lights up, same neurons, same circuit, running in reverse. Think of your visual cortex as a movie screen. Normally, your eyes are the projector. Light goes in, image comes out. But imagination works by running a second projector, pointed at the back of the same screen, sending images from memory forward. In most people, both projectors work. In someone with aphantasia, the second projector is missing or unplugged or aimed at the wrong wall. In 2015, Adam Zaman finally gave it a name. From the Greek phantasia, imagination, with an meaning without. Aphantasia. He published a paper describing 21 cases. The word hit the internet, and within a year, thousands of people who had spent their whole lives assuming everyone else was just being poetic finally had a label. Here's where it gets strange. You'd assume that someone who can't picture an apple awake also can't picture one asleep. You'd be wrong. The vast majority of people with aphantasia dream in full, vivid, Technicolor images. They watch entire movies in their head every night. They just can't conjure a single frame on demand during the day. This is the part that breaks people. Aphantasics will describe a dream from last Tuesday, the green door, the rain, the face of a stranger, in cinematic detail. Then you ask them to picture that same green door right now, awake, and they tell you it's like trying to look at a photograph in a room with the lights off. The photograph exists. They just can't switch the lamp on. The implication is enormous. The brain machinery for generating internal images isn't broken. It works fine when consciousness steps out of the room. It's the deliberate, top-down summoning that fails. Some researchers now believe aphantasia isn't a missing ability at all. It's a missing connection between the part of you that wants to picture something and the part of you that actually paints it. For a long time, skeptics had an obvious comeback. How do you actually prove someone can't picture things? Maybe they're just bad at describing inner experience. Maybe everyone's the same, and we just use different words. Then in 2018, a cognitive neuroscientist named Joel Pearson at the University of New South Wales ran an experiment that ended the debate. Pearson used a technique called pupillometry. Your pupils don't just react to light in the room. They also react to imagined light. If you close your eyes and vividly picture a bright sun, your pupils will constrict measurably in milliseconds as if the sun were really there. It's an involuntary reflex. You can't fake it. You can't suppress it. Pearson tested 42 people. The control group's pupils constricted normally when they imagined bright objects. The aphantasic group's pupils did nothing. No constricción, no reflex. The body wasn't responding because the image wasn't there. Pearson had found the first objective, physical, biological signature of aphantasia. You couldn't lie. You couldn't fake it. The eye knew, in the dark, whether the mind was actually seeing anything. Now here's the part nobody saw coming. If you can't picture anything in your head, you would assume you'd be terrible at visual professions. Architecture, painting, animation, film. You would be wrong. The co-founder of Pixar, the man who literally helped invent computer-generated imagery, the studio that gave the world Toy Story, Finding Nemo, Up, is a man named Ed Catmull. In 2019, in an interview about his career, Catmull casually mentioned he had aphantasia. He could not picture Buzz Lightyear in his head. Not the face, not the color, nothing. He had spent his entire life building a company whose product was vivid visual imagination, while having no internal images himself. He's not alone. Glenn Keane, the Disney animator behind The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, same condition. Several published novelists, a Nobel laureate, working surgeons, software architects. The conclusion is unnerving. Whatever visualization is for, it might not be required to create visual things. Aphantasics build their craft on a different scaffolding: spatial reasoning, motion, math, structure, language. The picture isn't the idea. It's just one way of holding the idea. Some people hold it another way entirely. Right now, in your skull, this is happening every second. When you remember what you did this morning, you're not just retrieving facts. You're running a film. You see yourself at the sink. You see the coffee. You smell it. For about 4% of people, that scene plays as pure text, a list of things that happened, with no sensory replay. Researchers have started to find downstream effects. Aphantasics report fewer intrusive flashbacks after traumatic events. PTSD seems to manifest differently. Cravings for food or substances are often weaker because part of craving is mentally tasting the thing you want. Some studies suggest aphantasics are slightly worse at autobiographical memory, but slightly better at abstract pattern tasks. Their inner life isn't worse. It's a different operating system. And the spectrum runs the other way, too. At the opposite end, around 3% of people have hyperphantasia, internal images so vivid they rival real perception. They can hold a face in their head and rotate it like a 3D model. The same word, imagination, describes wildly different experiences. Whatever's happening behind your eyes right now is your version of normal. There are many other normals. Blake Ross sat in his apartment in 2016, 30 years old, and realized that every novel he'd ever read had described something he had never experienced. When people said they saw their grandmother's face in their mind, they actually saw it. He wrote a long, careful Facebook post about it. Within a week, 500,000 people had read it. Thousands wrote back saying, "Me too, me too, me too." For decades, they had all assumed everyone else was being metaphorical. That's the haunting part. You can spend your entire life inside a mind, never knowing what other minds contain. Maybe yours is full of pictures right now. Maybe it isn't. The only way to find out is to ask, and most people never do. Close your eyes. Picture a red apple. Whatever you saw, or didn't see, that was you the whole time. If you found out today which side you're on, let us know in the comments. One word, picture or no picture. Next time, we'll go to the other extreme, hyperphantasia. The people who can't tell the difference between memory and reality, who relive grief like it just happened, and who say imagination, for them, is not always a gift. Stay curious. Thanks for watching. If this sparked a question, drop it in the comments. It might be our next video. We'll see you next time.